So one of the most recent questions that I've been getting asked while I'm a guest on people's podcasts is, how do we start women out with, like, when they come into the program of Warrior Babe and they're getting and learning the ropes of nutrition? And being that Warrior Babe is a macronutrient based company, a lot of women have no idea what macronutrients are. And before I get into the full concept of how we start women out and carry them along their journey to get to the understanding of fully tracking every macronutrient, it also dawned upon me how, because being in the space for so long, have been doing this for so long, sometimes it's nice to get brought back to be reminded of a lot of people are still starting their journey. And I was at the dog park one day with Maverick, and I was talking about Warrior Babe, and I was talking about the women we help, and this woman was like, I have no idea what macronutrients are. What are macronutrients? And I was like, all right. So, and that is so common. And so if you're feeling like you also too have no idea what macronutrients are, totally normal. Feelings are valid. So the way that we start women out inside of Warrior Babe is basically, think of it like this. It is getting to the macronutrients, the protein, the fats, and the carbs is like your North Star. That's where we would hope that you would get to after a year of being with the Warrior Babe program. And that's what our clients sign up for, is a 12-month term or a 12-month membership. At the beginning, though, think about it, you have 12 months to get to understanding that. At the beginning, it's okay to be learning something that is totally new, and be okay with messing up and failing and going over a speed, like a bump in the road or a pothole in the road, and then having to get back on track. So at the beginning anyway, we just want to understand who are the women, think about it like this. So we have an onboarding call, right? And our coaches are sitting down with a client, and they're just getting to know this human on the other end of a Zoom call. And we try to meet the clients where the client is at. And a part of that is, first, is having the client just download MyFitnessPal and log how she's normally been eating for at least 7 days. And not trying to be fancy, not trying to be accurate, not trying to be perfect here, and not trying to be like, oh, I need to eat better because my coach is watching me. Just having the woman eat as she normally would. And then that way, after the 7 days, we can see habits, we can see behaviors, we can ask questions, we can get a better understanding of the person that we're working with. After the 7 days, the next target, the more realistic goal that we can get to with women, and also one of the biggest things that we need to help women fix, is getting more protein in. And so after the 7 days, we look at the MyFitnessPal logs, and guaranteed at least 80% of women are eating probably 60 grams of protein in a day. No joke. And 60 grams of protein, you guys, is what dialysis patients eat in a day. That's just, it's not enough protein whatsoever for women, for especially the concept that women come to Warrior Babe for, and our foundations are strength training and macros, right? And building more muscle, being more toned, and adding more years to your life with the more muscle that you have to your body, being stronger, all the things, keeping it with your grandkids. Eating 60 grams of protein in a day is not going to get you to those results. And even if you eat 60 grams of protein in a day, it will probably take you 10 years to build the type, maybe even longer, maybe even never, to build the type of muscle that a lot of people, that people want. You can do it a lot faster when you're eating the right types of food. So anyway, we see that, okay, women are eating 60 grams of protein. So we're okay, the more realistic, the second, we have the North Star, right, of getting to the women to eat the protein, fats, and the carbs. And then we have the more bringing it closer to earth of getting people to eat more protein. So if you're eating 60 grams of protein, though, out of the gate, if we are to tell the woman that she needs to eat her body weight in protein, and maybe that is 180 grams of protein, maybe it's 150. If it's 250, you're not going to be eating your body weight in protein. I'm just kind of broadly speaking here. But that seems so overwhelming for a woman to be like, oh, I'm eating 60 grams already. How the heck am I going to possibly eat 150? So without overwhelming the person we're working with, we will bring it a little bit closer to being more realistic and be like, okay, you're getting 60 grams of protein. We want you to get 100 grams of protein in a day. And guys, 100 grams of protein is, it sounds like, at first, like, I understand that, like, people trying to learn how to get more protein in a day is also a challenge, and what foods consist of protein, what can I eat that has more protein. But think about it like this, there's 100 grams of protein in a day, right? So you eat 5 meals a day, that's 20 grams of protein in those 5 meals. If you eat 4 meals, that's 25 grams of protein in a day. That's literally like 3 ounces of chicken, 150 grams of egg whites, 200 grams of protein, or 200 grams of like yogurt, a serving size of a protein shake, and then like, I don't know, like ground beef or fish or something, like 3 ounces of that, 4 ounces of that at the end of the night. I just named 4 to 5 different protein sources, of which if you just get the quality or the quantity down for the serving size of what you need, you just spam that over 4 to 5 meals in a day. And right there you have 100 grams of protein. Okay, so that's your first goal. Once we're doing that, and this is, guys, like, again, like prefacing the fact that, like, painting the picture here, it's like 2 weeks by this point, 3 weeks, maybe even 4 weeks by this point, and we're just focusing on this with nutrition. I have seen time and time again women come into the program that want to track the macronutrients out of the gate, all 3 of them, protein, fats, and carbs, and they flop fast, and they fail, and they get overwhelmed, and they quit the program. And so taking it, this is not a freaking, like, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Understanding and grasping that concept and really realizing that, like, you can't learn these concepts and these skills in a matter of 4 weeks. You can't learn them overnight. You gotta give your time the patience and understanding that this is going to take time when you're learning something new, when you've never done something before. So we're like that for what, 3 to 4 weeks? Like, we're just having them track, learning behaviors, learning habits, understanding who we're working with, why, said person does this, how her days are, what it looks like, how we can structure a better routine around food. And then we're focusing on just getting more protein. We haven't even talked about fats and carbs. At that period, you guys are like, what do you do with fats and carbs? Dude, we just tell women, okay, just don't even worry about that. Just eat the fats and carbs as like you normally would, but like in a controlled manner. So and healthy, like the quality of the food has to be good. After that, okay, if we can like consistently get that woman that we're working with to follow just that type of protocol out of the gate, then we're solid. And that's hard to do if we're like, oh, I'm gonna try and do this myself. Dude, you gotta be held accountable, because out of the gate, you're not gonna, we've seen so many women try to, like, they always need more accountability. They always need that coach to be like, dude, I saw that you only tracked like 3 out of the 7 days of the week of this protein goal. We can't move forward if you're not locking this down. It's so important to have that accountability piece, and why it's also important to be working with a coach who knows their stuff and can push you and tell you things that you don't want to hear, but you need to hear. That's actually something inside of the Warrior Babe coaching team that we talk about every single week inside of our coaching meetings. I ask the crew, I'm like, what did you tell your clients this week that they did not want to hear, but they needed to hear from you? That creates a transformation. So anyway, side note. And there's some amazing stories there, because that's what gets the clients to change, man. So after that, okay, so protein, we're tracking, then we focus on protein. And then if our client is being consistent with what we're asking for of this protocol, we can phase in getting to track the carbs and the fats. And they can kind of be interchangeable at the beginning, so that you're not like steadfast on focusing on hitting like 200 grams of carbs and like 50 grams of fats in a day. It's just trying to measure and get them to fit into the meals with the protein. And then, it's all about consistency at this point. Like, this sounds like easy steps to be doing out of the gate, but the hardest thing is just applying the consistency and actually doing these types of protocols that we're telling the women that they need to be doing. Because if you can't like get the protein locked in at the beginning, and then you're wanting to, get to track all the 3 macronutrients, it's like putting together a new TV stand without reading the instructions. It's like you get to step 2 and you realize that you put the arm of the chair on wrong. And now you got to take the arm of the chair off and put it on the right way because you read the instructions. So no joke, that's literally like, if you're going to skip understanding how to track your protein at the beginning and you're just going to go straight to trying to track the carbs and the fats without grasping that full concept of protein, you're just going to have to end up going backwards. So that's a very common question I get asked all the time on a lot of the podcast episodes I get into, because macronutrients is a very hard concept for a lot of people to understand, and totally valid. But if you break it down like that, macronutrients can be your best friend, and getting them down is, until it's proven otherwise, it's just science at that point. And it's literally the way that you're going to be able to change your body composition. Macronutrients are the protein, fat, and carbs. So let's say you're eating like 1,800 calories in a day. Well, people usually just try and focus on 1,800 calories and not really focus on what the food is made up of. They're just eating 1,800 calories in a day. And when people are doing that, typically majority of the time, it's made up of, like, they see a menu, a food item on a menu that says 500 calories. Okay, well that could be literally all carbs and fats and like little protein. When you focus on tracking the macronutrients, you're focusing on the protein, the fats, and the carbs that make up that 1,800 calories. So you're giving your body the balance of the macronutrients that it needs, instead of overloading on like 2 out of 3 of the macronutrients. And then 2 out of 3 of the macronutrients, one being the carbs. Like, a lot of people eat a lot of carbs and they think that the carbs is what makes them fat. And it's not the carbs that make them fat. It's just because they're eating a shit ton of carbs, and because they're not eating the right balance of what their body specifically needs. So if they're eating just 1,800 calories, shit, like 70% of that the 1,800 calories could be coming from carbs. But when you actually put an emphasis on, like, okay, broadly speaking, you're doing a 30-30-40 split, then you will know that 30% is coming from fats, 30% is coming from protein, and 40% is coming from carbohydrates. Why macronutrients is so hard is because it takes work. It takes work first in understanding what food is made up of, and then it takes work to track the food and to put it into a database that will help you see the food that you're eating in a day. Like, it just takes work. And people, I don't know what's wrong with this, like, world, but what I see is that work is sometimes a hard thing to do for people. And if you want to change where you are right now and you want different types of results, you have to put in a different type of work ethic than what you're doing right now. So I think one of the reasons why macros is hard to do, mainly it's all behavioral, because once you like understand the concept, first of all, it makes total sense. And secondly, the time and effort put into tracking gets faster and faster and faster as you do it. It's just like riding a bike. At first, you got your training wheels. It's like, oh, this is like a new thing. I'm learning it. I'm getting the feel for it. And then like 3-4 weeks in, that activity now becomes faster and easier to do. Same with tracking. Why I think people revert back to like old habits and old training programs or something like that is probably because one, it gave them some type of immediate result, and it just slashed their calories, or it told them to follow this one specific thing or this one specific meal plan and do this one specific training protocol. And they're like, oh, I'm just going to go back to doing that. But like, they're never actually fixing. Actually, I just had this conversation the other day with a friend who came over to gain some insight and some understanding of how she can like get back on track with her journey. And she's like, I've done all of these programs in my life. Like, I was a poster child for the trainer. Like, I listened and I implemented the work, but I never learned things for myself. I never understood why I was eating this food or why I was training this way. And I think that until people fully understand concepts of nutrition and workouts, they're just always going to be going back for the quick fixes, unfortunately. I think fad diets are so easy to get people in because they are marketing on people's pain points, and people see this and they want to immediately fix the pain, and so and it's all behavioral, and so they buy into this fad program that says that if you do this and you do that, you will get X result in X amount of time. And this people it's just the world that we live in. People want instant gratification. I mean, I joke about this all the time, but I say, like, people want to put their body in a microwave and out in 30 seconds becomes a toned body. And that's just the wiring that people are programmed for. And the marketing just gets people that way. So I think that the reason why fad diets are so popular is mainly because they give you, in my opinion, false promises, because they're giving you a promise that you're going to hit X weight loss in X amount of time or get X result in X amount of time. And sure, if you do, it's probably in a very unsustainable fashion or a drastic measure. And when you do get to that false promise, in my opinion, you're so focused on the outcome that you don't really realize the habits and the behaviors of which you're implementing along the way. And those habits and behaviors that you're implementing along the way, at not such drastic measures, are actually what are going to help you learn how to be sustainable in the long run. Like, for example, I can think about alcohol, right? People jump into fad programs, and one of the things that they try and cut out right away to get to that said result that they want quicker is probably alcohol. And so something that people casually like to do every once in a while, they cut it out cold, or they stop eating one of their favorite type of food, like cold. And so they have this concept in their head that these things are bad, and I'm following this program, so I can't have this thing until maybe the program is over. And so now they are restricting themselves inside of this, and when they get to the end of the program, this false promise, they probably have attained some type of result. However, they're going to gain it all back because it's just like me telling you to not think about a pink elephant right now. Like, what are you thinking about? A pink elephant. You want what you can't have. And so immediately when these programs are done, people go back to drinking the alcohol, or go back to having their favorite food item, maybe even more than what they were doing before, because they just restricted themselves for so long, and the weight just comes right back. So in my opinion, they're giving you false promises, but they're roping you in because you're going to get this immediate result. Maybe you do, but it's not in a fashion which is sustainable. And what you really need to do is learn how to implement behaviors and habits that will serve you for the long term. What would I tell somebody that's living a very unsustainable lifestyle right now? First, I would try just to understand why. Why are they doing this? Like, try to gain the type of understanding that they maybe have on the concept and dig deeper there. And then once I have an understanding of why they're doing the thing, then I would probably go in a little bit hard with some like direct constructive feedback, of which I hope that they're able to receive and change. So it's a little bit more of a detailed answer. If somebody's on a ketogenic diet, I can tell you this. I was sitting next to a woman about maybe 5 years ago at an event, and we were talking about what my career path was, and I was talking about fitness at that point, talking about WarriorBabe's. Like, we were just like kind of getting it started and growing it. But anyway, she was like, "Oh yeah, I've been doing keto for like 2 to 3 months now." And I was like, "Oh wow, really? That's cool. How long, or when's the last time that you what did I say? When was the last time that you kicked out of ketosis? Or when's the last time that you fell out of ketosis?" And she was like, oh, like last night. She was like, I went out to dinner and had a couple of drinks. And I was like, don't you, okay, but so you said outcome, like you want to lose weight. And so you're going on to keto. But wouldn't you want to be able to keep those things into your like lifestyle without having to cut them out completely and still get the same result? And she was like, well, yeah, of course I would. And I was like, well, what about if I told you that there was a way that you could absolutely do that? And she was like, well, I don't know. I see people doing this and I want to do it myself and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, yeah, but like, you're not actually following the plan. Like you're not actually doing it because you went out, you had carbs last night. And so anyway, I was kind of getting her to think along with me. And then I basically got to the end of it being like, you can have carbs, you can have alcohol. It's just that you have to change the behaviors of maybe not eating so much of these things, or not drinking all of the time, or not having a drink on every single weekend, and be able to be a little bit more like self-controlled, essentially. And yeah, and then you'll be able to still keep the things in and still get the results that you want. So it's just mainly, it's like if I was to tell somebody that they're, doing these things right now, it's like, why don't you just learn how to change your behaviors and upgrade your habits so that you can still keep all the types of foods that you want in your routine, and get the same results. I think that why people go into like fad diets or go into wanting some type of immediate result, like how I was saying, like wanting to understand why people do this, is actually, I'm going to pull back in the conversation that I had with this woman the other day. The main thing that she was just harping on, and I think a lot of women do this, is honestly, in my opinion, very superficial. It was, and there's no shame to it. I just want to say that, like, it's a valid feeling that the reason why people start things is because they don't like a way that their body looks. And this woman kept like doing the flabby arms. She's like, I want to get rid of that. And then like I had this like belly from Menopause, like it's now being called like a menopause in the fitness industry. And then she's like, then I have like the cellulite on my legs. And I was like, yeah, I mean, that's totally all so valid. Like you want to feel more confident in your skin. I so love that. But like, can we get a little bit deeper here? Like, sure, those things will be fixed, but how about like your health? How about like that's why I like to try and just understand why, because I'm here for that goal, and like that's what a lot of people want to go for, but there's levels so much deeper than just the way your body looks. It's you being proactive right now for your health at age 40, at age 45, even if you're 30. Man, I started this when I was 25. It's being proactive earlier so that you're not reactive when you're going to the doctor's office and your doctor is telling you that your A1C is out of average normal, and now you have to go on some type of said drug to bring that down, or your thyroid is out of whack, or your your menopause, like when you're going through menopause, all your hormones are changing. It's like, if you can just, because you don't have symptoms now, right? That you're feeling like something in your health is wrong, because everyone's just like focused on like the exterior of their body, but internally, symptoms don't arise until it's too late. And so I'm just so passionate about this because I think if women, fad diets aren't going to fix that. Fad diets are only just actually going to make it worse, because you're just gaining and losing and gaining and losing, and you're being restrictive, and you're being severe in measures with not eating enough. So I think if just people understood a deeper why and wanted to get ahead. Like I love thinking like if you're strength training and you're eating right, you're literally adding years to your life, because the more muscle that you have to your body, it doesn't have to be a ton of muscle, it's just like the more strong your body is, the longer you will live, the longer you will be able to keep up with your kids, the longer you will be able to do all of the things, walk, daily normal activities, like grocery shopping, carrying bags, walking upstairs. Like the easier you will be able to do that. And you can't change that at 60, at 65, at 70. I shouldn't say that. You can't change that when it's too late. You can't change that when it's like, or I shouldn't say you can't. It's just, it's really hard to change when you're later in life and you're already noticing a decline in your mobility, a decline in your health. People just kind of accept it as it is at that point. But like, I just want people to be proactive. And then, man, you can just live so much longer.